Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the mobile internet, which is the fourth revolution in technology. If we had time, I would tell you about revolutions 1, 2, and 3, but we'll skip that part for right now. I would like to start out by introducing my co-speakers. Everybody gets a lot of mileage out of their grandchildren, and mine do not mind being photographed and photoshopped, so I use them frequently in my presentation. What would you do if you happen to be the proud owner of a mobile device like the iPad? And remember, the iPad's been out for a year. At the Consumer Electronics Show in January, 80 competitors to this device were discussed. Most of them will never see the light of day. There's a half a dozen out there now starting to be competitors. But all the talk today is the iPad. But if you had one of these, maybe one thing you would do is pull up a Betty Crocker cookbook and search for desserts or salads with strawberries in. It would lead you through what you need, the ingredients, and lead you through the steps of cooking. But if you were more serious and you were interested in radiology, you could study x-rays, or in fact, if you were a doctor and your patient's over at a line of someplace, you could call up their x-rays while you're watching my presentation and diagnose them with an MRI or an x-ray view on your tablet device. Now, of course, everybody here is involved in meetings every day, and so GoToMeeting is one of the popular applications. What you're going to see is mostly the things I'm doing here are things you do on your laptop. It just happens to be your laptop is probably not sitting in front of you waiting to go on in 2 seconds whenever you need it. I check my calendar all the time. Here was my October calendar and my schedule of speaking engagements. I was doing a lot of it in October. And incidentally, the calendar here is synchronized with this device. If I change the calendar right now here, the new information will jump to my iPhone and back to my computer in my office that quick. We're going to see another example of that when we bump. Of course, you need a spreadsheet. That's a basic operation. There is a spreadsheet available on this device. Now, if I was going to lecture to one of your groups, I am fully aware that most people in the room have almost zero knowledge of this subject, the vast majority. There are a few that do. So I spend a lot of time trying to figure out exactly where you wanted me to start. And most of the time, I start very basic. I talk about iPhone or smartphones, the whole category of smartphones, and I talk about the tablets. And so you see screens like this. But I also then walk right down to the step of saying, if you were to use this, how does it actually work? And I would show that if you wanted to check the weather, you touch the weather button. If you wanted to pull up a map to do navigation, you'd do that. If you wanted to give a presentation, you'd hit the Keynote program, which I just did about 5 minutes ago to start this program. That's how I got going. Some people will look at this and say, that sure looks like fun. It must not be a serious tool. You know, you can't do work with that, can you? Well, here's some of the things you can do. You can play chess, or you could access your member database. You can check traffic, or review registration for your event next week. You could watch movies, or you can give presentations. So there's both the fun part and the work part in one simple device. Here's the reason you need to start learning about this, and that is because whether you like it or not, whether you've hated technology all your life, these are the decisions you're going to confront. Do I go iPad or Android, Motorola or HP, smartphone or tablet, Verizon or T-Mobile? And everything from buying a phone to buying a tablet is going to involve that series of questions as the basic part of it. Now back to more fun things. I like to read newspapers in the morning. I haven't subscribed to a newspaper for years, but I read all of these newspapers typically when I'm these are available on the computer, but I read them when I'm drinking coffee or sitting at the kitchen table in the morning, as well as a bunch of technical publications. When you have something the size of a tablet, typically up to around 10 inches in diagonal measurement, the view of the screen is a beautiful view, and instead of clicking with a mouse to follow stories on your computer, you touch the screen. It just is a much more natural way of working. But of course, there are all kinds of other things available, including magazines like this. And the question is always, what do they cost? Well, you can't believe an industry that's in more uproar than the publishing industry about how they're going to distribute all their good stuff and get people to pay for it who thought that the internet was always going to be free. It isn't, and there are going to be charges for these, and it'll be just the same process as buying a newspaper, except you don't have to recycle when you get done. Of course, if you want to check the stock market, these apps that I'm showing you are all free apps. If I'd actually got the National Geographic, I'd paid something for that. But everything else I'm showing you is a free app. Application, that's what an app is. It means program. That's all it means. It's a program. What if you work for an association, a venue, or a vendor? Are there ways you might specifically be interested in using these devices? And I just made a quick list off the top of my head, and I am not an association, a venue, or a vendor, but these are the kind of things that you might do. A final check of all the breakout rooms. You carry this around, check off. Yes, we got the water pitchers filled. No, we need another projector and a microphone. Hotel guest check-in. I was talking to somebody else earlier, and I said if the lines at your guest check-in space are full, grab one of these, walk out in the lobby, and start checking people in and out there. Just add an instant extra slot to your process. Presentations like this. You could estimate costs, prepare and design contracts. If I'm working with you and I want to set up a bid for a proposal for some activity, sit down across the table, work out all the details here, and then be able to sign it with a pen, a legitimate signature, hit the transmit button, and we'd all get an email about it. Rather than saying, I'll send you a copy when I get back to the office next Thursday if I think of it. Take care of things when you're able to do it. Oh, and checking exhibits, just like checking breakout rooms, you certainly want to check the weather. And so this is a weather screen. This is the weather channel. And of course, if you need to, you can actually watch the weather guy do his video just like you'd watch if you were on television. We were in Chicago a few weeks ago, and if you were out looking for a venue, you're trying to find the Marriott, wouldn't it be nice to have some way to navigate through town? I was not driving, I was the navigator, following our car as we went through town on the freeway, trying to get back to Minneapolis. And because I could see the traffic all around, if there had been a traffic problem ahead, I could have easily said, okay, pull off right here, and I just showed the exit because our car is moving, that blue dot in the middle is moving along. And of course, getting out here this morning was a little bit easier because I could see the view of this facility and also the road coming in. Doesn't show the snow and the fog, but it shows everything else. But wait, there's more. You could review and update event schedules, display and discuss room setups. Wouldn't it be nice to sit down with somebody from a hotel with some other person and be able to show, here's all my rooms in the facility, and if we want to, we'll set up a room for you, and what kind of configuration do you want? Do you want the speakers over here, what kind of chairs, and just lay it all out with your finger and be done with it, have it all ready to go. Create menus, an obvious thing. Access member and registration records, check and update inventories. And it's my experience from watching event planning people, they don't like to spend or have the opportunity to spend very much time at a desk over in a corner or at a computer someplace. Most of the time they're out doing things, particularly when events are going on, and to have access to all of the records of the event in a 1.5-pound device, I would think would be a big improvement. Here's a few fun ones. Let's say you need something for another projector, and so you need the thing, but the fellow you're talking to, he's from Greece, and he doesn't have a very good command of the English language. You can pick up your phone, say, I need another projector. You can do it here too on the iPad or the iPhone. And because the fellow is Greek, it would translate it into Greek and pronounce it. And if you don't believe this, come back to my table. We'll pick any language you want and do a translation of some subject like this. And of course, if it's Japanese, you do the same thing. If you can read it along the bottom, that's how you pronounce that. Another interesting one, I was sitting at the little breakfast this morning when we first arrived, and a good friend, I'll call Paulette, showed me a magazine, and it had to do with apps, and it was from association meetings. A few minutes after that, I picked up my iPhone, scanned in the cover of that, and threw it into the presentation. So that's how all of these things kind of work together. It's a very good one. It's the December issue of Meetings magazine if you want to start looking at apps. Of course, there's many more serious things to do. If you can log on to your computer back in the office from your laptop, we can do the same thing with this. Citrix is one of the biggest ways of going into databases, remote databases. So I could go to your computer from here and run your computer if you gave me permission to do that. But the more fun stuff happens like this. Anybody recognize that? You recognize that? Duluth Harbor. I took that picture and then I put it into my iPad and did some fun editing of it. And then, here's another one. If you want to keep track of your calories, we will check on restaurant chains. And we'll just say if we're going to Burger King and I want to find out what a bacon double cheeseburger is worth, well, it's got 510 calories, and since I said I had one for breakfast, that will go into my record of my dietary record, along with my exercise regime, which probably won't amount to much if I'm eating bacon double cheeseburgers for breakfast. There are gadgets by the dozens. If you have a conference room table, you're not sure it's level or why it's not level, you lay this on top and the little bubble will bounce around. If you want to, if you get lost out in the woods looking for a Marriott hotel, you've got a compass along. And you can play games by the thousands, old games and new games. You can watch movies, watch Netflix movies on here. If we've got time, we'll watch a Netflix movie this afternoon. We have Wi-Fi access. But if you're thinking about television, this is what's happening that many of you may not know about. It's getting internet into your television. And these are the four big names. Roku, Boxy, Apple, and Google are fighting like the death to get hold of your computer, your TV access through the internet. So these are some things to keep track of. Finally, back to my grandchildren, Peter on the right and Adam on the left. The fun thing I have, they don't mind being photoed, and I take thousands of photos. But here's one of the other apps that I love, and this is a $2 program that allows me to change a photo, a full color photo, into one where you highlight the real color of part of it, whether it's a bird or a person or anything else. It takes a couple of minutes to download that program, 5 minutes to learn it, and 20 minutes of practice to be good at using that, and I just go crazy with that one. Of course, we want to check email or mail contacts. I looked up Kathy Johnson, and I find out that Kathy is... There's the information about Kathy, and here's the fun part. App software is easy to select, purchase, install, learn, and upgrade. Have you ever said that about a piece of software in your life? That's why people are lining up at stores to buy these things. Before I came here, I did a dictation. I said tap and dictate, and I started talking, and when I talked, I said, isn't it great to be here at the Speaker Showcase? I hope you're having as much fun as I am. And when I got done, if you want to bump, you tap your phone against my phone, your contact information will go into mine will go into yours, and I can request a Twitter connection, I can request Facebook, I can request to be a friend and exchange photos and put a date on my calendar into your calendar, and when that happens, it also jumps over to my other calendar and this calendar back to my office calendar. Thank you very much.